It's Way Up with Angela Yee.
Woo,
and
woo.
if y'all don't already know, I'm a big fan of Real Housewives of Atlanta. And Sanya Richards-Ross is here.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. We finally made it work. I feel like we've been trying to do this for a while.
I know. And you guys have been in town filming the reunion.
Yes.
I saw the seating chart.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're next to Marlo.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my girl.
Yeah,
so
we
that
know.
was perfect.
You're not neutral.
Is that word on the streets?
But so when you did that deep sigh, like, yes, how has it been so far?
The reunion or just the season?
The reunion.
No, the reunion. So honestly, the first reunion was tougher for me because I didn't know what to expect. I was super anxious. It was just a lot. This one I knew what to expect. And I was excited about it because I feel like the reunion gives you an opportunity to air everything out.
Right.
Like, this is like long form. We there for hours. Like, what are the issues? And I felt like yesterday we did a really good job of getting through everything. And it didn't feel like it was a long day. Like last time I felt like we were there for till midnight. Yesterday we got it in and got out of there. So it was really good.
All right. And you've had a lot going on. So this is your second season on Real Housewives of Atlanta. Like you said, the first season, you didn't quite know what to expect.
Yeah.
How was that adjustment? Because you had your own show before that was focused on you and your family. But now you're part of a cast of women who you didn't necessarily know.
Right.
Or even like grow up, being friends with.
Right. No, I think that a lot of people don't understand how challenging it is to join such an iconic cast. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I had watched the show before, so I knew the women before. And so, it was tricky because you want to show up fully as yourself, but quite naturally when you first meet people, it's an adjustment. Like, I'm trying to get to know you. Like, you might not understand my humor or my sarcasm. And so I feel like that was tough. And it's all being aired with people wanting you to do X, Y, and Z. And so, I think building real meaningful friendships, which is what makes a show works, takes time. And so this season, I felt like it got a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I felt like even more authentic and organic, as a part of the cast.
Now, one of the things about you that comes up is that people act like, you go back and forth.
Yeah.
And who is she really friends with? She says she's neutral, but she's not neutral.
Right.
Do you feel like you were forced to kind of have to pick a side?
It's a good question, Angela. And so here's the whole thing about that. I feel like the fans and people who watch the show and are invested in the show, which I love, forget that I've only known these women for the same length of time, right? So I'm literally trying to get to know everybody. So at that point when, before season 2 started, and in the off season, I had gotten really close to Kandi and Marlo. Those were the two I hung out with the most. So then first couple of weeks, they get into this huge fight and I'm like, oh God. So I really was trying to be a good friend and trying to mediate the situation. I didn't pick a side.
Right.
I went to Kandi. I said, hey, what is your perspective? Told her Marlo's. Went to Marlo, did the same thing and told them, like, let's just try to squash it. But I feel like people don't understand that that's not riding the fence. That's what friendship looks like when you're in a friend group where two of your friends have fallen out. Like, so I felt like I wasn't trying to pick a side or come across like I was riding the fence. It was more about just trying to show up for both of them. And as the season continues, I do become closer to Marlo throughout the season, but that's just organic.
Yeah, that's a natural thing.
Yeah.
And Kenya has also unfollowed you. I saw that was a thing on social media. And all right, but in all fairness, she did host your auction for you as the auctioneer, which is nice. It's a nonprofit.
Yes.
So, and I told her when she was up here, I was like, that was nice that you were able to do that.
Yeah.
As soon as you asked her, she said yes.
As soon as I asked her, she said yes. Yeah, and I appreciate that so much. I mean, one of the things I love about the women on this show is regardless of what's going on with us, if it's a good cause or if something happens to someone, everyone shows up for that person. And that's just been my experience. And what Kenya did, I mean, helping us raise $80,000 and helping so far over 18 women who are suffering with homelessness, who have children, I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
However, there is but there is also, while that's happening simultaneously, we're trying to build a friendship too, off camera or on camera. And I felt like, and we talked about this on the reunion, so I don't want to get too deep into it. That's amazing. I love that she did that for my Mommy Nation. But at the same time, there were things that she was doing to me personally that I didn't feel like she was really trying to build our friendship.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so what happens is that people see something and then something else happens. Like, well, how would she? But I appreciate Kenya for what she did. But there's some other things that you guys will hear that I was disappointed with how she treated me, in other situations.
It's already a cliffhanger, guys. And I should have started this off by saying congratulations.
Yes!
I apologize for that. Congratulations.
Thank
the baby
you.
is due on Christmas Day.
How did that? Who said that? Who said that?
I saw that in the is it December 25th?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Who said that? Yeah, he or she is due in December. And yeah, it's like, what a Christmas gift that is, right?
She. Okay.
No, I'm calling her she because I want a girl. Okay. So I will constantly slip and say that, but I don't know what it is yet.
Okay.
So I try he or she, but I just keep putting out into the atmosphere because I want a girl so much.
I was like, you heard it here first. And, and even having to be able to film the show while you were pregnant before, and then being open about a miscarriage. Yeah. That's something that so many women go through, right? And then for you to be able to open up about things like that, I'm sure a lot of people reached out to you to share their own experiences too.
Yeah, that was, Angela. So, I had this company that I started 4 or 5 years ago called Mommy Nation, and it specifically supports Black moms. And I have heard almost everything, right? From miscarriages to, for infertility, all kinds of stuff around motherhood. But man, like when I experienced my own miscarriage, it was just mind blowing. Like I think what happens is the minute you get pregnant, you open your heart up to becoming a mom, and it's like, I was so excited. I was like, okay, we're going to do this. This is going to be a big brother. And then I actually had a really traumatic miscarriage. I was actually visiting New York. I was here for work, and it was awful. I fainted and had to go to the hospital, had a blood transfusion, and it was really difficult, and it just, gives you so much more empathy and compassion for women who experience that and multiple times and who keep wanting to try. And so it was just really hard. And you actually see the fullness of the story towards the end of the season. And when I first saw it, I was like,
that's so crazy to have to watch. But then what a blessing that a month later, here you are.
Yeah. So God restores, and I'm so grateful because I am so excited to be a mom again and so appreciative, that we were able to conceive again so quickly. So
how did your husband, how did Ross help you deal with that too? Yeah. For the two of you having to, go through that together as a couple? Because I know he was excited also.
Of course. And you know what? And I haven't really had a chance to talk about this, is that moment in our relationship, it was almost like a reset for us because my husband and I have been together for 20 years this year. We've been together for a long time.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
I saw you like, listen, this marriage, let's cover this marriage.
Yes.
Because marriage is under attack.
Did you see that?
Yes.
It's like, I'm like, every day was like another breaking news of someone divorcing. I'm like, God, I pray at home. I said, but I need the world to get this prayer because I need covering, because I love my husband so much, and he's just such a great person. And he wanted us to have a child sooner. And I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. And I realized when in that time, I started to dig deep. Like, why are you opposed to having this child? Like, what is it really? And I realized that as a woman, I had found that I had brought so much value to the world when I was competing.
Right.
It's like it was this powerful thing, and then you become a mom and you lose that. Like, how do I show up in the world now? And I struggled with that. I was like, man, I felt overwhelmed with motherhood with one kid. And I was like, I just want to be able to do everything that I love at a high level, And so when I lost that child in New York, I really had to recenter and be like, you know what? I can do this. Like, I've done it before. I have all the support and resources that I need. Family comes first. Like, that is number one.
We know.
They come first, and then I know as a woman, if I focus on that, then everything else will be added to me. But I wasn't there for a long time,
and that is something to think about too, because I've seen this whole debate in sports. You are let's never forget, a 4-time Olympic gold medalist.
Say that.
But it is hard when you're in track and field, when you're playing in the WNBA, as women playing sports, to even think about having a baby. Yeah.
It's a huge topic, right? Because now, honestly, I feel like the conversation has been had, and there's been some tough topics talked about. And so you find more women now open to having kids and coming back. You see the Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, the Skylar Diggins, all those women who decide, okay, no, I want to become a mom and I still want to do sports. When I was coming up, it wasn't that accessible. Like, it wasn't something we thought about. It was just like, no, you finish sports first and then you become a mom, but I'm so grateful now that women have the opportunity to choose when they want to start a family, and organizations and companies give them the flexibility to leave because
you don't want to lose your endorsements.
Exactly.
Right, because that was a huge issue.
It was a huge issue years ago where when you became pregnant, they considered it an injury. So then you got reduced. It's like, a pregnancy is not an injury.
Because men can play sports and start a family and
have
not
50
skip a
kids,
beat.
have 50 kids and still
we know that's
So I'm really grateful that has changed, and women, they're able to extend their contracts and they don't lose their deals, and they're given a year or two to come back, depending on obviously which the organization provides. But I just think it's a beautiful thing for women to be able to have the choice to do both.
And I love to see you still in that world, like commentating, because track and field and all these women's sports, I feel like right now is getting more attention than ever. Yeah. You know, so have a lot of these women like reached out to you just because you set all these goals for them too?
Yeah, I think what women reach out to me the most about now is the transition from sports to the next thing. Because the reality is there's no blueprint when you win an Olympic gold medal. Like, what do you do next? You know, like for most women or for most people, male or female, coaching or becoming an agent are the usual paths that people take. But it's like, if you want to do other things, how do you do it? How do you start to network and figure it out even while you're still competing? And so I think that's been the greatest joy for me, is to help young girls to say, okay, what are you passionate about? Like in this, like when you're not competing, go and still intern somewhere. Like don't be so focused on the sport that you don't figure out the next chapter, because it can be very depressing to retire from something you love in your 30s and have no idea what you're going to do next.
And I feel like nowadays there's also a lot more ways to make money and streams of income. We see all the NIL deals that people are doing. Some people are making more money than actual,
professional athletes, full-time professional athletes. The NIL has completely changed the game. I have mixed feelings about it. I think we have to be very careful about it, because if you think especially about in our community, most minorities, Black males and females, are the first millionaires in their family, right? Like when they're in sports. And so the only thing I'm fearful of, and I hope that there will be systems in place for young people, is that if they get the money too early,
listen,
if they get the money too early.
Thank God I was broke for so long, because I don't know what I would have did when I was
really.
I would have been a mess.
Yeah. So I think it's a great thing, because I do think young athletes and collegiate athletes deserve to play in the money pool, right? Because they're bringing all this money in. But is there a way maybe they don't have access until they're 21? Just maybe, you know what I mean? As opposed to, because what it does is having that amount of money always kind of highlights and exacerbates the things that we struggle with. And so you give a 16-year-old money or a 17-year-old a lot of money, and they, sometimes they lose their way and they never reach their full potential.
And it could be family and friends also tapping into your pockets.
Exactly.
All kinds of things can happen. You're right about that. And I do think financial education is so important.
It's such a big thing. You know what I mean?
And protecting,
Exactly. So I love the fact that the NIL deals exist and young people can make money. I just want them to be responsible and have good people around them to help guide them. Because for athletes, we make all of our money in our 20s and 30s. Right. And you're hoping to live till you're 80.
Yeah.
So you got to make that money stretch. You know what I mean? 90, 100, So, yeah.
Now, let's get into some family stuff.
Let's do it.
Okay? Because your sister works with you.
Yes.
And so I see, and I was watching the episode where you were having your nonprofit, right, from Mommy Nation.
Yeah.
And it was actually emotional, because your sister was very upset. You didn't give her a heads up.
Yeah.
She was like, I would have liked to get myself together. I have 2 kids also. I would like to make sure that I can, set the time for them. And she definitely was not feeling you in that moment.
She was not feeling me. That was real.
Yeah. And you know what? And sometimes, like, I could feel both sides, because I know for me, I'll hit up my makeup. Oh my God, I forgot to tell you I have this going on. And I don't mean to do that to her. And, she's gracious and everything, but y'all also live together. And that makes it even harder, right? Because you are up under each other all the time.
Yeah. So I think, and looking at that experience with my sister, I think that our lives have transitioned so much, where before my sister was literally like my number one fan. Like she would come to all of my track meets, always be there. And as her life has changed, as she's become a mom and a wife, I think there are times where I forget that I'm not her number one priority anymore. You know what I mean? And then, like you mentioned, our lives move so fast. A lot of times I'll forget to tell a makeup artist who doesn't live with me, much less my sister, who I'm figuring, she knows what's going on. And so, it's really challenged me to really grow up and to get more structured and to provide her the same kind of respect and love that I would want back from her, So it's actually helped our relationship a lot. Like we're in a really good spot now. And I do a better job.
Okay, good.
Yes,
calendar.
I got my calendar. I talked to her first about what's going on. So we're in a good spot.
Are they moving out, the family?
That's the plan.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Is there a deadline for this? Because I think it and look, not that you don't, because you have a baby on the way too. So I know for you, you're like, oh man, I don't know if I want them to leave yet. But
exactly. Ideally, I would like them to stay, but my husband is over it, and so is my sister. And like it's
she's like, I want to leave too.
Yeah, like it's because it's this amazing thing. Like this multi-generational living is wonderful from the sense of my son gets to play with his cousins all day. Whenever I leave, nothing gets disrupted for my son. He's in the same place. If Ross and I have to travel, it's just there's so so many positives, but there's also challenging because it's like 3 different households functioning under one roof who have different ways of being and stuff. So it's been great, but I feel like, like they've been looking. So I feel like they're going to probably be out in the next month or 2.
Your mom too?
Yeah, they're both out there. Everybody's going to be gone.
Oh my God. That's going to be so weird for you.
I know. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also like a little bit nervous. Like, I love having them here.
Yeah. But that has to be hard for Aaron too.
Yeah, I think it's hardest on him.
Yeah, because... I know somebody, she got married and his mom was living there, and it was helpful, but it also got on her nerves too, because that's what happens with family. Absolutely. They get on your nerves sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's I think it's toughest on him, and so I appreciate him for letting this happen for a year and a half. But I respect his wishes, and the move is happening.
Might be a third one on the way after that. All right, so now how do you and Kenya move forward now from this? Because she really, I told you we spoke to her, and she just seemed like she was just really like, she felt a certain way about the fact that, she did these things for you, and then she felt like you were talking, and she already had some issues, from the first season, you talking about her butt and stuff like that. Do you think that you want to mend things, or are you sometimes like, look, maybe we're just not meant to be friends for real? Yeah, I mean, to be very honest, I feel like in these first 2 years of getting to know the ladies, I feel like I have acquiesced a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Like I feel like I have given them a lot of, space to be themselves. At this point now, I feel like I'm starting to figure out, like who's who. And I do feel like there's a way forward for me and Kenya, But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to not be friends with Marlo authentically, and I am not going to allow for her to do things on camera that appear to be what real friends do, but then not treat me like a real friend off camera. Okay. But it's hard to tell because you never know what's going on off camera. Yeah, and then sometimes I'm sure you see the episode and you're like, wait, who said what about what has been something that caught you off guard when you saw it afterward that you didn't know happened? Let me think, Angela. Lord, I got the worst brain. I'll be on the thing like, what happened again yesterday? They be thinking like, I'm lying. I'll be really forgetting. You and Drew are cool now. Yes, Drew and I are in a really good spot. And that started off a little rocky. It did. So Drew and I are in a good spot now. But I particularly now that she's going through the divorce, that has been, oh my God, like just so challenging. I feel so bad for them. Like I was saying, when I met them 2 years ago. We went out to dinner. It was the 4 of us with Ross. And I just thought they were so great. I was like, they just were full of love and they were laughing. I was like, oh my God, they're so dope. So to see where they are now is just so heartbreaking for me. And so I just want to be there for her and support her because I know they have 3 beautiful kids and it's just a lot. So we're in a good spot right now. Right. I'm trying to think of something that kind of caught me off guard when I saw it. A lot of stuff. I'm sure you'd be like, "What happened?" So you sit home and watch the episodes, or so we get the episodes a couple of days earlier than when it airs. Yeah, okay, because y'all got to do like watch what happens. Exactly. Exactly. So we don't get a lot. We don't have no editing power or anything like that, but we do get to see them, and I do watch them, of course, because I love the show. I want to see how it all comes together. Because like you said, a lot of times I don't know what's going on in somebody else's personal story as intensely as we get to see it on camera. So yeah, I watch it, and sometimes I'm like watching it like this. What does Ross say? Does he watch it with you? Is he sometimes, because you're his wife, right? Is he defensive? Because it can be hard for him to have to watch things. Just like I saw one time your mom was reading your comments. Yeah. And sometimes that's the hardest thing. It ain't about you. It's what the people who you love, who love what you. What they have to see. And I know she don't play. Exactly. The one that takes stuff the hardest is actually my sister. Like, she can't even really watch the show anymore. It used to be her favorite show. Like, she never missed an episode of RHOA. And then I got on the platform. She's like, "You ruined my favorite show." So that sucks. Ross watches it. Like my mom actually can watch too, but my sister's the one who has the hardest time. Ross, most of the times, like, he gets it. He's like, they'll get to know you more. Like, he understands it better and doesn't take everything so personal about what happens with me. So yeah, he's good with it. Now, how athletic is your son? Because we were talking about this before you came in the room. Like, her kids are going to be beasts when it comes to sports. And does that mean something to you? Like, do you want to make sure that your kids are active and maybe even, professional athletes? Is that something you want? Yeah, so what I want is, I definitely want my son to participate in sports, because I do believe that sports is one of your greatest life teachers. So I think every child who has any inclination or like sports should do it, because it teaches you discipline and hard work and how to rebound from disappointment, all those great skill sets that you need in life. So I definitely want him to do that.
But let me tell you something. He thinks he's Sonic. Like, he thinks he could beat me already. Like, he's wildly competitive for a 6-year-old, 5-year-old. He'll be 6 in August. And he has the speed and stuff. So he looks like he's going to have the chops. But I just feel I don't want to put any pressure on him. I'm like, poor kid. Like, UT's already offering him scholarships, play. No, just jokingly. They're like, make sure he comes to UT. I'm like, yes. They're like, so I just don't want to have too much pressure on him.
What about football? Because, a lot of parents are nervous about their kids playing football, but obviously Ross played in the NFL.
Yeah.
So would you be okay if he was like, I want to play?
Yeah. Both Ross and I would prefer him not to play football.
Okay.
So he's in soccer now, and we love soccer. I think that's a great sport. Obviously, track. Like, football is getting tougher and tougher, right? Mm-hmm. The athletes are getting bigger, faster. We saw with Hamlin, Damian Hamlin? Damar Hamlin, when he, was on the field and it looked so scary. And so, obviously it's going to be hard to tell him no when his dad played for so long. But I think every mom would agree, like, you just don't want to see your kid in that
get
kind
hurt.
Of... Yes. So hopefully he plays something else.
Yeah. And what about you as being the person on the show? It feels like you and Kandi are the ones that are like in the most... stable relationships right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to, you haven't dated in a long time.
No.
And it's a whole different, era out here right now. It's hard out here, okay? So what type of advice are you giving, say, Marlo, when it comes to dating?
So I think, like you said, I haven't been in the dating game for a long time, and I got very lucky to find the love of my life in college. Right? Which I feel like is where you should find them because there's so many options when you're young and in college. Like, as you get older, you don't really go places where men are. So anyways, but it's like, Lord, how do you do it?
Everybody's not that lucky, Sanya, to find it.
I know. Okay, if you don't find it in college. A couple of the tips I would say is, and I think that worked for Ross and I, is I feel like it's important to communicate even in the early stages. Like, what do you both want? Because what happens a lot of times is you're in a relationship with somebody and y'all don't want the same things.
Right.
Like, he looking for a wife and you're looking for, a boo thing, or vice versa. So I feel like you got to be always very clear as to what you want. I think people have a lot of pride and don't want to say it, so they end up waiting. Mm-hmm. So I think once you develop that kind of communication, it gets stronger and stronger as you go. And Ross and I communicate very well, like super clear about what it is we want and all that kind of stuff. I think you also cannot... Like Marlo, I tell Marlo, you can't have this list or this vision of what the person's going to be, because 9 times out of 10, that's not what God's going to bless you with. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to just be open, have an open heart.
And when you're at a certain level, too, it's also gets a little harder. The pool gets smaller.
Slimmer and slimmer. Yeah, exactly. And so I think you have to have an open heart and not have this preconceived idea of what he's going to look like, what he's going to do. And then I think probably the most important thing is you focus on yourself. I think for me, when I was in college, I was focusing on being an Olympic champion and being the best I could be. And I feel like I attracted somebody who was similar.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when you're focused on you and doing all the things that make you happy and growing, I feel like you attract the right person. So I think those are the 3 tips I would give.
What were some of the challenges for you guys having gotten together at such a young age? Because that is young.
Yeah.
And y'all were both like at the top of what it is that you do.
Yeah.
So what were some of the challenges that you had early on?
So this is going to sound crazy, but like our marriage up until probably right before Deuce was like a honeymoon fairy tale. Like, we didn't have a lot of issues. And even though my husband played in New York, and I remember going to a game one time, Angela, their camp, and there were like women outside with their phone numbers like on billboards.
You are lying.
I put it on everything I love.
This before DMs.
Law is. I also think that's what kept me safe too. Come out, I can DM you. But I mean, women with their numbers on billboards. I was like, so you want anybody to call you? You're not gonna say like, hey,
you
exactly.
Have a choice,
like, you just gonna have anybody take your number. So we went. Obviously he had all of that, but still, like, we never went through anything crazy. There was no, and I think the toughest challenges for us came after we became parents. Mm-hmm. We really struggled with going from 2 to 3. And I think at that time in our marriage, a lot of things were happening at the same time. We both were retiring from sports, which was really difficult.
Yeah, that is.
It's really difficult. And then I got pregnant right away. We had a kid. We were living in the same house full time for the first time, because when we were competing, I'd be gone for a month, and it's a different dynamic when you're not always with each other than when you're like every day in the same house, you know? So those were probably the biggest challenges that we faced in our relationship, was becoming parents. And we figured that out and navigated through that now, and I feel ready for baby number 2. But Yeah, we didn't have a lot of issues in the early stage. It was just blissful.
Can you see yourself doing another show with your family? Is that something you would want to do? You know, you're on this, but would you want to maybe go back to that also now that you're having another edition?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to that with Bravo, you know, if they want to do something like that. I actually, so like at the reunion, we have like these packages, right, that shows each of our stories like kind of like carved out of the show. And I was like, man, this is such a great season, like to see the story arc of my family being with me, and then, you know, the idea of them moving out, and then some of the stuff I had with the girls, and then now, and then the loss of the baby, which is on the show, right, you know, and then to now where we are. I do think it's such a beautiful story. And so, yeah, I would be open to it, but, you know, only with Bravo.
All right, go ahead and pitch that. You did it before, you
Yeah,
know, and now I think now is the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, Sanya, thank you so much for coming by. I do really appreciate it. I've been wanting to have you on the show. Even when you guys had your own reality show, I was trying to make that happen when I was on The Breakfast Club, but I'm glad we made this happen.
Me too. Thanks for having me. You're doing such a great job.
Oh, thank you.
No,
I
seriously,
appreciate it.
yeah.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah, it's really great to have you as a woman who I think you just have your finger on the pulse. You understand issues that we care about. You talk to people that we care about hearing from. So just keep going. You way up, but you're going to keep going way up.
She's good, y'all.
She's
good. Thank you.
And yeah, this was a treat. Thanks for having me.
And congratulations to you. I cannot wait to watch this whole journey when she's born. Okay?
When she's born. We're going to keep saying she till she come.
It's way up with Angela Yee.